On today's episode of the Launchpad podcast, we talk about Paulo's trip to Houston and all the incredible things that he got to do while he's over here. And then we're going to talk about the draft. That's what's going to be for the next couple of months. So we're going to get into the top three prospects with the super special guest, Itamar. I'm sure many of y'all know him as Disney Gary Clark. So stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome into the episode of the Launchpad podcast presented by Clutch City Control Room. As always, I'm your host, Don Knock. Find me on Twitter at Don Knock. Stop pointing, bro. You can find the pod on Twitter at Clutch City Control Room. At Clutch City CR. The link tree is in the description there. So if y'all want to find the pod on Spotify, on Apple, the YouTube, it's all right there. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, who is just recently coming off his trip to Houston. So, Paolo, say what's up. Tell everyone they can find your stuff.
What's up, everyone? You can find me on Twitter at Paulo Alves NBA. That's PAULO ALVES NBA. Everything I do, from podcasts to live shows on Spaces to articles, we find itself linked on there.
And I want to apologize to everyone because last time we recorded with Ben, we said that he was going to change his display name to Airport Prod, and he did not change it. So I'm sorry that we disappointed y'all by not making that change. But we are joined today by a good friend of the show. Some of y'all may know him as Disney Gary Clark. Some of y'all may know him as Itamar _17_10. Itamar, go ahead and tell the people where they can find your stuff. Tell the people this is your first time on the Clutch City Control Room. You were with us over at Apollo, and now we've obviously all made the transition over to here. So tell the people a little bit about yourself and where they can find you.
I love to break down film, watch games twice, analyze draft footage, and all of that. Just obsessed over basketball, really, and as it relates to the Rockets and the NBA draft. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Itamar _17_10.
Perfect. And so today what we are going to be talking about is, like we kind of mentioned earlier, Paulo's trip over to Houston. I would say it was a great success, but we'll get into that a little bit. In the second and third segments, we're going to talk a little bit about the draft picks that are projected to go in the top three. All right, so let's start with Paulo's trip to Houston. So a few weeks ago, I guess a few months ago now, myself, Nima and Brad actually met up in Atlanta, and they talked about, hey, it would be really cool if we brought Paulo over. I said, hey, I'm pretty much down for anything. That would be awesome to have him come over here and, experience Houston and see how great that would be. And, at the time it was like, it's going to be a long shot. We have to finance some of this ourselves, whatever the case may be. And then we decided we were going to try to do a GoFundMe. I'm sure many of y'all, are kind of aware how that went. Basically, we put it up, and in 2 hours we had raised more than we had ever possibly imagined of raising. So we got to planning, got to organizing. Some of y'all helped us with that. We had a lot of people that reached out with, songs to put on the playlist for him to listen to, places we need to go to eat, all those different things. And then I guess it was last Thursday, right? He gets on the plane. He'd never flown before. Had to talk him through the airport experience, make sure he was going to pass his COVID checks and his vaccination checks to get in here. Finally gets over here. And we were worried because obviously he's from Portugal. He has a Portugal SIM card. He does not have one from the US. So we got to the airport and we're like, hopefully we can even find this guy, because if he's not on Wi-Fi, we may just be cooked. We get to the international arrival spot, and Will, Bias Houston, and Brado NBA. I'm sure y'all know them as well. I was driving.
Brad Muse?
Brad Muse, his alter ego as well. I was driving, so I was like, hey, just hop out real quick and see if y'all can find him. They walked about 10 or so feet down the line, and then this guy with the gray mask on And what were you wearing? Like a white hoodie? Just looks up
Yeah.
and just does this, right? Sorry for the people on the podcast, just raises hands in the air. And it was crazy because I mean that was the first time we saw each other. We've done podcasts, we've done Zooms, all that stuff for years, but until you see someone in person, it's just like, I don't know, it's just different. Brad was intimidated by Paolo's height. He's like, I don't think this guy's actually 6'1". I think he's lying. So we saw Paolo and he was actually 6'1". And that was kind of a crazy moment. But I'm gonna let you take it from there. That was how the experience led up to me, and then after that, pretty much just turned into the weekend of a lifetime. So give your side of the story about what happened after we found you at the airport.
I mean, I was dead when they found me. I never flown before. I had to fly 4 hours to Amsterdam and then 11 hours back to Houston. And I didn't, I was 100% stressed all the time because I didn't know what I had to do at all times. And so I was really tired. And I just remember that I landed, I got in the car and we were all over the places. We had so much to do. We had to go get food. I was like, my brain was barely working because I couldn't sleep on the plane pretty much. We needed to go to the hotel. We needed to get the SIM card. I needed a bath because I did just spent 11 hours on a plane. So we just got to doing it. And are we really just gonna walk them through like everything?
Walked them through the whole weekend, man. People,
Nice.
look, I mean, we saw it, man. Like everyone was totally fascinated by this trip. Our mentions, our replies, all of our noties were just going crazy the entire weekend, man. So yeah, this is about you for a second. Just go ahead and tell them what happened, man, because this will never. I mean, this will likely never happen again. So we're just gonna take our time and kind of soak in this for the moment.
So we got to the hotel. And we divided like shores or whatever. I'll call it that. So half of us went to get the SIM card. The other, like Brad, stayed with me. Got a bath, changed clothes. I had my feet like fucked up because I bought new Vans to bring to the trip, and I was dumb enough to wear them to the airport. And the airport in Amsterdam, I had to walk 25 minutes from one end to the other to change flights. And so my feet were fucked. I was like, I was like the peak of like not being comfortable. I was speaking foreign language. I wasn't really used to it yet. But yeah, we got that done. And then we had to go to the watch party, right? Am I missing anything? Yeah.
Well, no, we went to Whataburger, right? And we did a side by side.
You're right.
We did a side by side taste test of my beloved patty melt and Will's beloved. What was it? It was the sweet and sour burger.
Sweet and spicy.
Sweet and spicy. Sorry, sweet and spicy burger. As you can tell, not my favorite thing from Whataburger, but yeah. So go ahead and tell them how that went, and then we'll get to the watch party.
All right. So they got both things, and I basically split like half one, half the other. And I came to the conclusion, against popular belief, that the sweet and spicy one's better than the patty melt. Just has more flavor. Like the patty melt just blander. Yeah. So we got that out of the way. I tasted, I think, what was it called? Like strawberry Fanta. That's not a thing in Portugal, so I tried that. It's really sweet. So, but it's good. Yeah, so after that we got to the hotel, and then we were going to Urban South for the watch party. We got out of the car and I was really nervous because I could see people like Jackson in the distance, and I was like, okay. One something that y'all might not know or it might not seem like, I was an introvert for most of my life, and then past few years I've been trying to like intentionally revert back to being a little bit more of an extrovert, but my comfort zone is being the Robin, not being the Batman, right? So I was the Batman the entire weekend, and so I was out of my comfort zone a little bit. But yeah, we got to the watch party. We met Jackson. We met the Semi-Cinemaine guys. We met Kalen. We met J-Dubs. If you're on Twitter, you'll know who he is. We met DJ Sultan Season. We met Ben Dubose. We met
Bima Thug.
David Wiener. Yeah, but Bima Thug. We met And how many people do we meet more? I mean, we met
I
a
think there
bunch
was
of people
like 50
just
people there. There was like 50 people there.
yeah.
We met Michael Brown of the Dream Take Pod.
Man,
I'm trying to think
the
who
bad
else.
part of
Taylor
saying
Pate.
right. The bad part of saying names is we're bound to forget someone. We met
I know everyone else
Okizi.
there. We'll see who doesn't get mentioned here. Yeah.
We met Okizi. We met Reese.
Yep.
We met Ike. We met what's the we meet?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were all watching like the um, the Raptors game on TV, and I mean that's the least I've ever watched of a Rockets game because we were just so all over the place.
It's hard to watch those Rockets games when you're at the watch parties because there's so many people there. You're trying to talk to everyone, especially like we were hosting. We did some giveaways as well. So like at the end of the first, second, third, and fourth quarter, we did some giveaways. So we had to kind of be locked in for that. And again, you're just trying to talk to everyone. Just trying to talk to people that came there to see you, right? Especially you, Paolo. Like you're like you said, you're the Batman, right? You're the star of the show. So like everyone kind of wants to chit chat with you for a while. So it's hard to watch, and like I had to rewatch the Raptors game for sure. But
so yeah, so basically the Raptors game boiled down to we were in the lead and then we did our best tank job of the season. We lost by 2. There was a Jalen Green that people thought was a block there at some point, but it wasn't. It was just Watanabe missing the dunk. So that was. I mean, we were hyped at the time, but afterwards, seeing the footage was kind of sad. Yeah, so that happened. We were just chilling for like what 3-4 hours watching the game. Everyone South, pretty much.
yeah,
right.
We got there at 5. I think we left at like 10.
Yeah, and so afterwards, is there anything else we should say about that?
Afterwards, went over and played, some cornhole. And I think it was fun for everyone to experience that. Then the next day,
No, I was really good at cornhole.
Okay, there you go.
No, wait, no, you're missing a part. So first, before that, we were trying to find a certain hot dog place, but the line was insanely big. So we switched and we went to a Mexican place. And something that y'all are going to see was a common thing on the strip. Compared to Portuguese food, U.S. food's really heavy. I don't know if heavy is a term in the U.S., but what it means is, for me, it took me a long time to digest. So like we had Whataburger like at 2-3 p.m.
Yeah.
And I did not need to eat food the rest of the entire day. Like I tasted stuff that they ordered just to see if I liked it or not. We got queso. That was pretty good. So we had that, and then we went to what's it called? Is it Pitch 25?
Pitch 25, yeah. Free advertising for them, but yeah. Sports bar in Houston, for those of y'all who don't know.
So we went there. Before that at a watch party, we met a guy named Austin. He's on Twitter. He was a really cool guy. We were just like playing cornhole, which is a really funny name for a game, for like 2-3 hours. And everybody expected me to be terrible at it, but we have a similar game in Portugal, but instead of the light like sandbags, we have like heavy metal discs, and it's played in the dirt. So it's basically the same concept. So I think we went pretty well. Yeah. I think I was teaming up with Brad. We went 2-2. I think we got to a game where we were 2-1, and the other team was 3-0. And if we had won, we would have tied them, but we lost that one. So that was really fun. Jackson was there. Brad was there. Will was there.
All right, so let's skip ahead a little bit. We're kind of getting bogged down this. So the next day we woke up, went to brunch over at the Breakfast Club, and then we went over and played basketball at the court outside the Toyota Center. We had a lot of fun doing that. Paolo ended up not playing a bunch of the games.
I was not having it.
He was scared of the competition level, which is competition level was decent. There was a couple guys there that were pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, just the people were just way too good. I didn't want to embarrass myself, so I was just like shooting when like they were switching teams, and I was proven right, so now I want to play when was this guy. They had just came out of work, and he came into the court,
Wow,
and
this
he was
guy's up to
like,
get it. You didn't even realize.
this guy, this guy got into the court, and he was getting cooked every single possession, to the extent that his teammates were mad at him like the entire time. Like the dude was like, we have it on video. It was hilarious. Dude was getting cooked like every single time. I don't think I've ever seen someone get cooked this badly. Like ever since, I don't know, probably like Harden on Stanley Johnson or something, something like that.
So
Yeah,
so then the
so that
next
happened
day,
as well.
the next day is where the festivities
Yeah,
really took off. So we woke up in the morning, got ready. What did we do for breakfast that morning?
Shipley's.
Shipley's, right? We had Shipley's. So everyone that was concerned we are gonna get donuts. Don't worry, we had that taken care of. We went over to the game. Um, we did a meetup before the game. Well, even before that, Prod went outside. He was waiting in line, and someone brought you a shirt and a jersey, correct?
Yeah, I think his name on Twitter is Jumbo Slice. So he had reached out even before I came, asking like, "Do you want a jersey or do you have a jersey?" And I was like, "No, I don't, because to order a jersey all the way to Portugal, it's like $200." And I'm like, "Dude, ain't nobody got $200 to pay for a jersey." So he got me one. He met me. So he met me at the entrance. He gave it to me. Somebody else also gave me a T-shirt, like a City Edition colorway T-shirt. So that was awesome as well. So that's basically what happened prior to getting in, right? Oh no, we got mic'd up by Chancellor of, I cannot
KPRC
remember the
channel two.
words.
KPRC
Uh,
channel two.
so KPRC channel 2, I was mic'd up. We had a camera following us, which was really weird for the first like 4 or 5 minutes, where I was like, well, what do I do now? So I was trying to be myself, but also, I, you know, myself is also someone who says a lot of bullshit. So I was having to balance that, but eventually I got comfortable with it. So yeah, we got in there. Oh, we went to the shop, to the team shop, because it was like 50% discount, I
Yeah,
think,
and
on everything.
I acquired this fancy jacket right here, which y'all probably saw me in on the TV feed and some of the videos and pictures at the end.
Yeah, so I got that. I got that City Edition. Fucking, I think it's a warm up jacket,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah,
it's a
it's the
warm
warm
up
up
top.
jacket.
Yeah, it's the one with the collar. And then you got a hat as well, right? You
I
got a
also got a
black and
hat.
white Astros hat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'll be honest with you. That jacket, I've been eyeing that jacket ever since they first came up with it, because I remember Josh Christopher had a sick photo with it. So yeah, I mean, I'm wearing like normal clothes because all that stuff is in the washer. But yeah, so we got that. We went to the meetup. What was it, like the Corona bar next to section
Yeah,
113?
Corona Extra Bar in section 113. Yeah, it's where we usually do our Twitter meetups. So if you ever want to come to one in the future, that's where they're usually at.
So yeah, we were there. So was this when they met us, or
Yes.
did they meet us at the
So
halftime?
so yeah, so
Okay.
we went
No,
to
but
the Corona
let
Extra
me tell.
Bar.
Let me tell
Yeah.
you. Let me tell this. So we went to the bar. We were meeting. I met Dubose. He got me an Alex Bregman. What's it called? Bobblehead. Oh, and I forgot. Holly got me the Jalen Green rookie one. So I y'all don't know this, but I really love bobbleheads because they don't have us. They don't have them in European sports, and so I always found the concept really funny. Um, so Ben gave me that. There was a bunch of people there. Some Steelman guys were there. Jackson was there, and we were just chatting, like meeting people. Someone touches me like in the back of the shoulder. I was so used to people doing that because people want to take pictures, and I turn around and it's and it's Raphael Stone, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? You can imagine my panic where I'm like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? What do I say? Like I was legit starstruck because, at least for me, those guys, Raphael, Patrick, they are more important, and I look up to them more than I do the players themselves because they are the they're the guys that actually decide the fate of the team. Like, the players have to play the game, but you put the players there. So I think that's pretty easy to understand. So yeah, we had a chat. We met Patrick Fertitta, the son of Tillman Fertitta, who's also part of the front office. We met Felicia Stone, who I suspect was who set it up, because I highly doubt those two guys knew what was going on.
From what we heard Ben set it up. That's how Ben Dubose. We heard he set it up.
I asked Ben, and he said that wasn't him.
He told me it was him. So yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So he lied to me? Okay. Ben, if you're listening to this, I'm never trusting you again. You're way too selfless. You're way too selfless.
No, he didn't want to take the credit. He didn't want to take the credit, but I'll expose him right now. Yeah. He helped set a lot of that up. I don't know if he did all of it, but he definitely reached out about it. So yeah,
it was
something important for the story later on. Myself got a certain owner's son's phone number, which was really cool. And then we finished that up, went and watched the game. Awesome. Came back to another halftime meetup.
Yeah, we will not reveal the details of the conversations we had with such people.
Yeah.
It's better this way.
We'll tell one of them. I want to tell the story about dinner. So right. Then after the game, we were gonna have another meetup, and we got hung up because KPRC Channel 2 wanted to interview a few of us. So we actually got to go down on the court. We talked with Ryan Hollins, we talked with Craig Ackerman, and then you got interviewed by KPRC. I know a lot of people have probably seen that clip floating around.
No. We gotta shout out Sanford, because Sanford is the one that got us to go to the court. Like he was, the PA announcer, Jonathan Sanford. He recognized us. We called him. We got a picture with him. He got us on the court, and then from there, Ryan Hollins wanted to meet us as well. So we went up. We met with Craig Ackerman on the way. All those people were really cool. We were talking with Ryan Hollins and the Rockets. Was it the entertainment director, or I'm not sure what his position is, but he came up to me and was like, "Do you want to shoot a free throw?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna miss it 5 times, but hell yeah!" And so we got a clip of me making a free throw, and then we were going to do the interview for KPRC 2. Did I get this right, Tom?
Yep.
With Chancellor, and so they got interviewed first. I was the last one. And while they were getting interviewed, I was doing the free throw stuff. And then they called me.
They called you over. You did your interview.
And while your interview was coming up, you're the one there.
Yeah. So right when you're doing your interview, Sengun comes out on the court. We were able to bring him over, and the other guys got a picture with him. Right as you finish your interview up, Sengun came over. You got a picture with him as well. We were starting to head out. They were starting to kick everyone out, and
wait. You're forgetting the coolest part. Didn't Sengun literally walk up? So y'all are just on the court. He just walked up.
Yeah, he just walked up. Yeah, he was just kind of like, "Oh, what's going on? What's going on?" Yeah, it was very strange. He is a very just kind of I'm just kind of here vibing type of demeanor, just oh, I just saw a Sengun in the wild. This guy's out here doing his own thing, which it was incredible to see. But
which goes to show how humble he is. You can tell he doesn't he doesn't feel himself as any sort of star or Hollywood or whatever.
I definitely, when I was taking the picture, I was like, "Say I am so happy on 3," and he just kind of looked like, "Oh, okay. I guess that's what we're doing right now." Everyone else just starts dying laughing, and then I'm just kidding. But yeah, so then they're about to kick us out. And then I saw Josh Christopher right there, and Paulo's one of the biggest Josh Christopher fans in the entire fan base. And I was like, "You want a picture with him?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't want to bug him. No, just leave him alone." And I was like, "Absolutely not. We are taking this picture right now." So I was like, "Hey, Josh, can you take a picture real quick?" He's like, "Yeah, no, give me a sec." He was talking to some people, so he came back down, got the picture. Prod just in hog heaven there chilling. Apparently KPJ was standing right next to him. I just did not see him, which is devastating to me because I love KPJ and I wanted a picture with him. One of our other friends, Jasmine, she got a picture with KPJ, and so now I've been down bad this entire week because I didn't get one.
You had a chance as well.
Yeah, he was right there, and he would have done it too. He was so cool.
Yeah, they were legit right next to each other.
Yeah. I saw Christopher and I was like, that's your guy. I'm gonna get him. But anyway, so we left from there.
He is my guy.
We left from there, and we were gonna go over to dinner. We were gonna go to Landry's property, make sure we could help the luxury tax get paid the next time the Rockets are competing and everything like that. But we were on the phone. We were talking with Patrick. Y'all remember him from earlier in the story, I'm sure. And Patrick was like, "Hey, if y'all go to Landry's property tonight, we'll take care of y'all." We're like, "What? This is kind of nuts." So we were gonna go to Cadillac Bar. We get over there, and then because Will said he didn't want to have
So first we were going to get Italian, right?
Yeah, and Will said he didn't want Italian. So then we're gonna go to Cadillac Bar, and he was like, "Hey, I'm fine. We can just go get Saltgrass," and it was right across the street. So we moved over from Cadillac Bar to Saltgrass, and we're in there. We're eating, and the whole time we're like, this guy said he's gonna pay for our meal. Like he doesn't have to do that. If we don't want to go too crazy here in case he's like, "Hey, I can't cover whatever." Like he doesn't text us back or whatever. And so finally, I was there. I was so nervous. I was like, "How do I ask this guy? Like, hey, are we gonna be good?" Like, so I gave my phone to Brad. I was like, "Brad, you're the most shameless one here. You got to ask him for it." So Brad just texts him. He texts him, "Hey, how do we know that we're gonna be covered? How do we ask if we're gonna be covered?" And this guy responds, "I'll call." That's it. That's all he said. And we were just like, "Oh my goodness, this has gone way too far." So we finished eating. The lady comes over and she was like, "Hey, do y'all want dessert or anything?" We're like, "No." She comes back and she's like, on the behalf of the Fertitta family, we just want to thank you guys for being big Rockets fans, and your meal has been covered. And all of us just sit there like, we are not that cool to have this happening to us right now. This is an insane experience. But if any of them happen to be watching, thank you for that. It was awesome. It was just an incredible way to cap off the trip.
And we gotta get the publicity stunt in. The food was really good.
Yeah, the food was good. I had a blackened redfish, which was incredible.
So I had been trying like typical Houston food for like the rest of the trip, right? So I'm a big steak guy, so I just wanted to get some steak and some fries, like just simple, So I was looking through the steaks, like the steak dishes that they have, and they have something that's called that's called Pat's ribeye. And I was like, "Yo, Don, ask Patrick if Pat's ribeye isn't like if he's the Pat from Pat's ribeye." So I got that. That was really good. Like, I'm a big steak guy.
Let me see I'll tell you what he said. So he said, "Paulo wants to know if the Pat's ribeye on the menu is named after you," and he said, "LOL, no." I said he said he was disappointed that it's not named after you, but it was still really good. And he said, "Ha, well, maybe we can name it Paulo's ribeye if you'd like." And we lost it. That was incredible. I'm gonna have to get these messages framed. So
just have them in the background of your face cam.
Yeah, I'll just have them. I'll put it like right over there on my wall, right over there. Just have them for posterity. But I think that's a pretty good summary of the trip. That's pretty much all the highlights that happened, minus the launch pad after dark stuff that we don't want to get into here. So you have anything else you want to say? You want to thank anyone before we move on to the draft stuff? Itamar's been very gracious waiting while we tell the Paolo story. So thanks for being patient with us.
Yeah, we should have told you to just join like half an hour later. I just wanted to say that I'm really thankful for everyone that even just went as far as liking the tweet, making it reach more people. The fundraiser one, all the people that showed support, all the people that gave ideas to what we should do. We had a lot of fun. I'm kind of settling down now back home, but at the time I was just like, "What's happening? Like, this is not." I'm not really sure. Like, is this real? Like, for those that don't know, Rafael Stone is like, it's not really an idol, but he's my favorite person when it comes to the Rockets. If I could meet anyone, that's who I would want to meet. Patrick Fertitta. They're not listening, so I'll just be like straight up honest here. There was this idea back when he was mentioned as someone who's really high in the front office that was an nepotism hire. Like, we talked to these guys for like a good 10-15 minutes. They know what they're doing. Like I know, like there's decisions that we don't agree with, me and myself included. But when you talk to these guys, like they get it. It's like there's not a big disconnect from what we say on Twitter and what they think and what they do. But there's just a lot of circumstances that we don't know about, and they're not allowed to talk about in public to explain why certain decisions go certain ways. And this doesn't mean I'm not going to criticize when I disagree with something, but it definitely showed me that we are quick to criticize without the full context, and sometimes we should try and imagine what the context might be behind the decision, because these people are not dumb. If something happened a certain way, it was probably because something we don't know about was affecting the decision. So I just wanted to say, like, I'm really like meeting Patrick was like I'm really confident that the Rockets are good when it comes to the front office for like the next decade to come. Even when Tillman like hands Patrick over the keys, I'm sure that I'm sure everything will be okay because these people know what they're doing. They're really down to earth. There's no there was no nepotism about that hire. Like he's legit a really good guy, really smart guy about the NBA. And to me, that's really important because I can root for a team that's just lost its best player like Harden. I can root for a team that is like the worst team in the league 2 seasons in a row. What I cannot root for is a team that's badly run. And I don't think, and from from what the decisions that they've made thus far, plus like getting to hang out with them and see how much they care and see like some of the thought process behind some of the stuff that's been happening and that's happened, I'm really confident that we're in good hands, and to me that's the most important thing because as well as the team's well run, we'll eventually get to where we want to be.
All right, so that's gonna do it for our first segment. When we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit about, well, a lot about the draft, guys we see in the top three, and what direction we want to go with that stuff. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And continuing on here on the Launchpad podcast, presented by Clutch City Control Room. So the first segment, we went over Paolo's trip to Houston. Like I said, incredible time, one of the best weekends of my life. Now we're going to move on to some more Rocket-centric discussion. We're going to talk a little bit about the top three, who we see as the most ideal fit out of those guys, or the most ideal selection out of that. So Itamar, you just had to wait patiently for about 30 minutes there. So we're going to let you go first. Who do you have as your number one prospect on a Rocket-centric big board? Tell us what you like about him. Tell him what you're hesitant about, and we'll go from there. So take it away.
I definitely don't think it's as clear-cut as maybe it was earlier in the season, but Chet is still my guy. It's just that when college players dominate the competition at the level that Chet just did, they don't always end up at the bare minimum good players, or like Anthony Davis, for example, an all-time great player. So with Chet, there is also the thing that he wasn't used correctly in Gonzaga. Like you watch their games, and he got the ball, like he got open catch and shoot threes. He got like easy putbacks and like dunker spot points, and he got like maybe one post up if I'm generous. So like it feels like with his skill set, with how the guy ended up shooting like 80% at the rim for the entire season, like some crazy high number. So it feels like with his touch, with his length, when he can just shoot over people, that it feels like there's more upside than was shown at Gonzaga offensively. So that's part of the reason I believe in Chet. And like the concerns, I do believe that some of the biggest Chet fans, they kind of downplay his concerns, his downfall a little bit too much. Like I feel like the fact that he can't really flip his hips, he can't really change direction as well. So he's not very switchable, and he's extremely weak, like for a big. So that combination, and he's not also like Mobley when it comes to not fouling. So that combo, like as a rookie, he may struggle defensively more than you'd think. Like I think that's certainly a possibility as he learns the NBA games. puts on more strength and everything. But just his level of being able to affect the game in so many ways, like I think he has the potential to affect every offensive possession Bear does when like teams just change the entire way they play offense due to Gobert. And Utah has consistently has an elite defensive team, even though they can't stay in front of guys at the perimeter like Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley. They don't really play perimeter defense like that, and yet Utah is an elite defensive team. So I think Chet's ability to impact the game without the ball in his hands, like as a shooter, as a lob threat, as a defender, it just I don't want to pass up on that guy, especially on a Rockets team that kind of lacks guys who are elite without the ball in their hands. And but I will say it is very close. Like Paolo Banchero, awesome finish to the season, much better shooting number than you'd think. Jabari is like he probably has a higher ceiling than some guys think because he's so fluid and he's so young, and you can when you just can shoot everything, like things are easier. And Jaden Ivey, I also think, is underrated in this discussion. But Chet is my guy because just it's hard for me to see him fail, and I think the ceiling and especially the fit with other high usage players, like the guys who will be in the next draft, like Derek Whitehead, Scoot Henderson, I think that fit is just perfect. And yeah, he's my guy.
All right. Prod, over to you. Who do you have as first? I think most people know who you probably have as first, but take it away.
Name bias.
I know.
Name bias.
Yeah, it's totally name bias. No, as most people who've watched the podcast and as most people who follow me on Twitter might know, my guy is still Paulo, and it's basically because like we've went back and forth on every single argument throughout the year, and I think it boils down to this. I think he has the most clear-cut path to being a star, and I think he has the tools, he has the IQ, he has the fundamentals, he has the work ethic to be what we think he can be. And to me, he is the closest to, like, he is the guy I look at out of the top three, and I see less obstacles towards him becoming that guy. Is he the best fit? No. Out of the top three, he's the worst fit. But to me, that just doesn't matter. And I think whoever we draft will be the second best guy on this team. So the only fit that matters for whoever we draft is Jalen Green. And so with that in mind, Banchero will is a perfect fit with Jalen. Jalen is someone who can play off the ball, who can play on the ball, who is constantly relocating when off the ball. Like you really get Steph Curry vibes. Banchero is someone who has the IQ and the pass and the passing to just find Jalen over and over and over again. And the difference between, and I see a lot of people draw comparisons between him and Şengün. The difference between him and Şengün is that Paolo can do the playmaking that Paolo does, not only out of the post, in the perimeter is also really valuable, and that's something that Şengün can't do. I would even bet that Paolo, like year one, will be the best perimeter passer and playmaker on this team. And I think that's really valuable to a team because nowadays it's hard to run an offense out of if your main playmaker is in the post. And I think and from that standpoint, when you put it in a vacuum and you look at it like if Jalen Green was the only guy on this team or the only guy on this team that should matter towards drafting for fit, I would say, then Paolo fits with him perfectly. I can see a perfectly dynamic duo. Paolo is not going to steal touches away from Jalen because Jalen's not going to take your every shot. Jalen's not going to bring the ball up your every possession. There's no team in the NBA that works like that, where at all times the same guy is always bringing the ball up. There's always like two in super teams and then there's three guys who can bring the ball up, run plays, get their own. The Rockets right now have one guaranteed, at least for me, that's Jalen. KPJ's a maybe, Şengün's a maybe. I think Paolo would be above those two in that regard. And I just think it's harder to find that guy. I think there should be a higher priority to find that guy than it is to find the complementary pieces. And Well, I do see the ceiling in Chet. If you wanna boil his ceiling down to Rudy Gobert with better like mobility and with a 3 point shot, that's an incredible player. I'm just not sure if he can be that. But then again, it ultimately boils down to he's the guy I can see like having the clearest path to being that star. And I have said this so many times that at this point, it just I know Itamar probably has some counterpoints, so I'll just like hand it over to you and answer whatever you have to counterbalance that.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to respond.
my f- all right. I researched that a couple weeks ago, and as it turns out, every high volume scorer in the like someone who creates his own shots consistently and is efficient was also efficient at that role in college. Like either he didn't really play that role, like Zach Lavine, but was efficient regardless, or he did play that role and at least had like above average efficiency, which Paolo currently lacks. And I don't know how much that's a big deal. I mean, because you also can argue about how he wasn't used that well and how there is a lot of skill that he just could that Coach K wouldn't let him show. Like he's a guy who is very clearly Duke's best passer and best decision maker, and he can run pick and rolls, and they didn't do that consistently. And I feel like he definitely could have been used much better. But when it comes down to it, I mean, Paolo had like a 10-game stretch where he shot like 38% from the field. I think with his inability to really generate easy shots right now, even against guys like Brady Manek who aren't supposed to really be able to guard him, and we haven't really seen him dominate like the way he was expected, I have some concerns regarding his star potential. But regardless, I mean, just what really changed, and I think that now, like in my eyes, like the Rockets could take him first overall, and I wouldn't mind, is that the shooting numbers are much better than you'd think. That this, like when watching him, I mean, he shot 47% on long twos, which is a great indicator for future shooting. He shot 40% on catch and shoot threes, 40% on unguarded threes, something like that. And his flashes, just like being strong as heck, great touch, smart. Like that is not Jason Tatum. He's like 60 pounds heavier than Jason Tatum was in college. But even with both playing at Duke, like being like having not really shooting the best 3 point percentage, but kind of shining from the mid range. Like there are some comparisons there where I could go like, man, like it's entirely possible that I'm missing how Paolo can easily be like an offensive star, and now he's an elite prospect, and I just don't really see it right now because of his role and because of just like some unfortunate shortcomings that won't be relevant once he learns like some counter moves, and once he has a go-to move, like it's entirely possible he develops that. But regardless of his shooting, decision making, finishing ability, like he's an elite offensive player in the NBA, no doubt about it. So that's why he's my two right now. He passed Jabari and Jaden Ivey for me recently. But the one thing I would like to add is that I have some real concerns about his defense. Like he knows what he needs to do, and he can defend guards. At like he can switch and defend guards, and he can do it like pretty well. He can also slim down a bit if he wants to. I mean, he rotates, but just the nature of his defense is very passive and lackadaisical. Like there are even in the tournament, there were possessions where he just there was a possession where he defended a pick and roll, and it wasn't about switching, and he just like he was in a drop, like in a higher drop, and he just kind of let his guy go by. Or when he rotates, he often doesn't really try and go like block his shot, doesn't really go and like deny. It's kind of it's there. He doesn't really always jump. Like put his hands up. He's there. He's trying to like take a child. So I I think he'll be an okay defender. Like he won't be. I doubt that if he hits offensively, like, but guys like who hit offensively always hit defensively. Just how it goes in the NBA. Like you look at all of the stars, they are pretty good defenders. And tools like Grant, like an actual Young was just tiny, but other than him, then like they were all good defenders. So I think he will be like probably okay, but I just have some concerns that offensively, like if he can't really generate easy shots and he can't really defend that well, and like he doesn't love taking shots off the catch that much, like maybe he will be like the type of star who isn't good enough to be a star and who isn't impactful enough off the ball, like that kind of thing where he's in between the walls and positions. But regardless, the talent, the tools, the strength, the skill, it's just some of the plays he makes. You just go like, how do you stop this guy? I mean, when he takes a step back three with his frame against like five, you just like, what can you do? So he's my two. I just I don't feel confident enough in him becoming a star and a good defender to put him at one. But there's no doubt he's a great prospect. I would love for the Rockets to draft him. He's Paolo. He's awesome.
I want to
Yeah,
apologize. I
think
want to apologize for giggling. I don't know if y'all saw this, but some lady just tried to glue herself to the floor during the playoff game of the
What?
Clippers versus So I was reading some of the jokes right now on Twitter. That's why I was like smiling and sticking
Like
just
on
now.
the court?
On the court, yep. So what did Kevin O'Connor said? Kevin O'Connor said, was she protesting Scott Foster?
She's right, man. I stand with her.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. Yeah.
It's all because of that guy who crashed the Rockets game.
Yeah. So all right. Sorry. Regroup. I'm sorry. I got everyone off track. So
I can't go on Twitter, so I can't check. But that sounds hilarious. What I would say about Paulo, and I will get pretty heavily into Jabari next segment, I guess. The thing for me is, out of the guys that we can take, I feel like I'm most comfortable in him getting better at stuff he needs to get better at, and the fact that he shows flashes where he can be a good defender, but sometimes it just seems like he isn't trying hard enough. That's the case with most offensive stars in the league. James Harden can play defense, but he just doesn't try every single time. I think since the tools are there, I'm confident that should he hit the ceiling offensively, defensively, it will be fine. It's not like Trae Young where he just can't play defense. It's not. I think there's some value to getting someone who makes defense a priority like Chet. It is a concern that he's not trying every single possession, for sure. Like I said about Patrick Baldwin Jr. that I don't want another guy that I need to convince to play defense. But I think this is a different, at least for me, it's a different circumstance where Patrick Baldwin Jr. is never going to be a 1, 2, or a 3 option on a championship team. I think Paulo can, and if he can, then you can live with him taking possessions off, as long as it's not like glaring. And then to answer, you made a point about offensive stars in the league not being efficient in college. And you brought up the comparison yourself. Jason Tatum had pretty much the same exact efficiency Paulo has, just with better free throw.
Well, I researched. Don't come at me like that. I researched. I'm kidding. But I researched it. Yeah, he had like a 58. I remember his efficiency being like pretty damn good. I checked him. I remember that.
And he also, I'm checking as well.
And he also is still like at 50. Like he's still. I don't know how efficient Tatum is right now. Like still,
probably lost your video feed.
Oh, sorry. I'll be back.
Okay.
I'll be back. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, am I back?
Yep. You're good.
So Tatum was 1% true shooting higher, or 0.9% true shooting higher than Paolo Banchero. So, like Banchero was averaging like I think 55.7% true shooting. It's not elite, and for one of the best players in college, it's not great. And for his position, it's also not great. But for a first scoring option, that's still like at the NBA level, that's league average. He didn't kill college, but it's not like he was
Yeah.
inefficient. Anthony Edwards is someone who was not efficient in college and has been somewhat efficient in the NBA. He's in his second year. He's regarded as one of the top prospects in this league. Kawhi Leonard is another example of that. But even though that wasn't his role in college and that wasn't his role coming into the NBA, Tatum, as I said, had 1% better true shooting. I think it comes with being a really versatile player that he can do whatever the coach wants him to do, and coach is not asking him to do the things he should be asking him to do. I think playing with Mark Williams is good, but I don't think the spacing is the best. And I think if you have Banchero one-on-one and the perimeter with anybody, and you have like spaced out Russ style 4 out besides Banchero, there's no one that can stop him unless it's like a freak athletic like Giannis, where he's just going to keep up. I think at the college level, nobody could stop him, and we never saw that. Like we often see him beating guys off the dribble, and Mark Williams, like the guy that's with Mark Williams, helps, and even then he is already smart enough to find the pass and to dump it off to the dunker spot. I think most of his assists are always to Mark Williams himself. I think it just comes down to this. Just like Jalen Green has the tools, has the IQ, has the work ethic, and when you have those three combined, it's really hard for someone not to pan out. And it's just, I'll be honest with you, and I say this every time I have this discussion. If you could lock me into Jabari Smith at 3 right now, he's my third guy. If you could lock me into that, I would take it right now, because I think it's close. But if I had to make a choice, I think Paul will probably always be my number one, just because of the archetype of player that he is, and because he has concerns. Like, he has more concerns, but they're less egregious than the other two, where the other two have less concerns, but the concerns they do have are really severe.
All right. I think this is a good stopping point to come to for now. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the pod. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And moving on into our last segment here on the Launchpad podcast, talked a little bit about Chet Holmgren and Paolo Banchero and a little bit of the fit stuff in the last segment. This segment, we're going to talk about Jabari Smith, Jaden Ivey, and a few other people that we may like for the Brooklyn pick. So, Itamar, go ahead and start us off. Same type of procedure, pros, cons, however you want to take it, with Purdue guard Jaden Ivey.
So fancy.
I got to bust out a word of the day just for AD to get mad at me and heckle me. So, yeah, go ahead. Take it away.
So, Jaden Ivey is typically the type of prospect that I don't like. Like guard without a great feel for the game or great decision making, relies on his athletic tools, which probably I tip guy and go like I don't really see it, I don't really like it. But with Jaden Ivey, I can do that, because Jaden Ivey, I feel like his absolute potential, he's the one guard in this class who has the potential to be a lead guard, and we all know how valuable that role is, which makes if you actually think he can be a lead point guard, you probably should have him one, because their archetype is just so valuable in this specific draft, where Ivy really, I can understand at Jaden Ivey at 5 and Jaden Ivey at 1. So about Ivy, he's 6'4", with incredible speed, leaping ability, every type of athletic ability. I mean, he can, his fast breaks are incredible to watch. He just sprints, he beats the entire team down the floor. Great first step, like Jalen Green-esque. He has the ability to even run a pick and roll, and then he goes slowly, puts a defender on his jail. And then even though he has no momentum, he leaps and gets high in the air so he can take the contact and finish over the big. So he is very athletic, which is great. I mean, he really is the type of guy who learns with reps. So you can see that his kick out passing, for example, is very good. Like when there is a 2-on-2 situation with a properly spaced floor. So like he knows, okay, I'm gonna drive right here. I'm gonna drive right because he only drives right. He doesn't drive left. He's very conservative in his views. So when he's gonna drive, and then he sees if the big is gonna commit, all right, that's a pass to Trevion Williams. If the big is gonna commit, and I see that the low man is moving, okay, that's a kick out. Like he has those things. It's like an algorithm in his head that he automatically reads, and then he makes the right read typically. But it gets harder where like I said, his feel is not good. So let's say the defense like plays a zone or an unconditional defensive coverage, or maybe the spacing isn't clear. Maybe someone cut when he shouldn't have cut, or something. It's not the spacing is not excellent. Then you can see, or maybe like sometimes teams just accidentally left someone open, and Ivy doesn't really map the court before he drives. Like Luka Doncic went on a JJ Redick pod a couple of weeks ago, and he said the first thing that he looks at when he goes to ISO is who's the low man, like who's the low man, is who's the guy who's guarding the big, like what's the alignment on the floor, what can I do? And I know Harden does the same thing. So with Ivy, he just doesn't do it at all. So like someone is open at the strong side corner, like one pass away before he drives, he just doesn't see him because in his brain it's time to attack. It's not time to like. It's like he moves. It's all about reps and about what do you do in certain situations, and not really a great feel for the game, which is kind of a red flag from someone who you want to be a point guard. But with Ivy, he can get to the rim so easily. His 3-point shooting this year was pretty good. Like he shot some really tough threes. He ended up at 36% on high volume, where like step backs, tough catch and shoot, deep threes, like, and he still managed to finish on a pretty good percentage. And I don't know that he's gonna shoot that well in the NBA, at least to start, but like there's something there with the jumper. And he doesn't have a mid-range game, just like an in-between game. It doesn't exist really. Like he tries to do some floaters when he shouldn't, and then the floaters typically miss because it doesn't always work in his favor. But it's really about a guy who can get to the rim anytime, make decisions from there. Like typically, like the kickouts, like kick out threes at will. That guy is gonna rack up assists in the NBA. No one in this draft can break down a defense like Jaden Ivey can. Like not even close. Ivy is just, it draws so much attention, and he really understands the level of attention that he draws. Like he can hit when there's nail defense. So like the defender one pass away, he come at court and like tries to strip the ball. So most guards, like even high usage guards, they take time to understand that they can immediately pass, and I've that like already. So he learns fast. He took a big improvement mid-season with his pick and roll play. And the biggest thing is that with Ivy, defensively is not great. He's like, he has tools, but like he's not consistent like most athletic defenders. And offensively, it's just that because he only drives right, he gets forced into tough angles way too easily. So, for example, he doesn't always drive to the rim. He drives close to the rim, and then he has to take those ugly floaters with one hand, like leaning right. That are just tough shots. And because he doesn't like typically go into people like with contact and doesn't really embrace contact, and isn't overly strong and isn't really flexible, if he can't really change directions that well, which is a big difference from Ja, who like changes direction incredibly well. So his driving ability is kind of like there are great flashes, and there are plays where you just kind of don't understand why it couldn't work. But with Ivy, even though, so to sum it up, Ivy, high ceiling, really, he could be a lead guard, like with the right development, if he takes the right developmental path and he learns how to be a point guard, which kind of KPJ, but with more tools, like with more speed, ability to break down the defense, then he could be an incredible player, like consistently an all-star. I could easily see that for him in the future. But as a guard who also relies on his athleticism and that's gonna fade away at some point, not great decision making, shooting is, I don't love the shooting. Like he shot 26% last year. So it really depends on, like, I think teams will really vary on their opinion on Jaden Ivey. I think some teams are gonna absolutely love him, think he's the first overall type dude. Some teams might not have him top five. He's a very polarizing prospect, and yeah, he's so fun to watch though. He's an experience to
So,
watch play.
so to me, I'm lower on Ivy than most. I've had him fifth behind Sharp. I think he's four right now for me, but still, to me, it's like, so if he projects to be a star, there's just too many holes in this game. The feel's not there, so for you to be a star, feel's important. Paulo has that feel. There's just, as you said, there's no in between game. Like there's no floater, no mid range. There's a three that's questionable because he had the bad shooting last season. He came in really hot and then he got really cold, and like he was consistently at like 44% from three. I think he dropped all the way back to like 36% from three at the back end of the season. It's just one of those players where he has too many holes for me to believe he's going to be a star, and he's going to have to go through the same process that we're going through with KPJ, and we've seen how hard that is, how hard of a transition that is. I guess I just don't buy that he can be a point guard. There might be a absolute ceiling. I just don't believe he can reach it, and I think if he doesn't, and segueing into Jabari, who's the next guy I want to talk about, if he doesn't hit that ceiling, there's no backup role player. I don't think there's no like backup role player level like outcome for him, at least not as defined as someone like Jabari, who there is like his ceiling could be really high if he can develop some of these skills that he just doesn't have whatsoever right now. But you know that worst case scenario, like there's a defined role player level that he more than likely is going to reach. And to me, that's the appeal with Ivy. It's probably the safest prospect in the top five. You just know, like worst case scenario, you've got like maybe a Mikal Bridges on steroids, maybe I don't know, like a Robert Covington on steroids if you want to see that with way better perimeter defense.
Like steroids, huh?
What?
Steroids. Never mind. Keep going. Keep going.
No. What I mean is, it's rare in the NBA to have players who are elite at both defending and shooting. Either you normally to get these types of players, you take a guy that's really good defender, you teach him how to shoot, or take a guy who's a really good shooter and you like teach him how to defend better. And with Jabari is like Mikal Bridges, he's someone who's already elite at both. And so that there's a lot of safety to that. He can fit, plug and play with whatever offensive player that you can pair up with him. He's the most flexible if Shingun pans out. He's the most flexible if you get someone out of free agency that's going to be a ball dominant player. And then there is what to me is a slight possibility that his handle gets better, that he is better at finishing at the rim, that he's less contact averse, or is better at finishing through contact, not really contact averse. But I just think, to me, he's above Ivy clearly for me, for the Rockets specifically as well. But to me, what scares me about him is I just don't believe that he has that ceiling in him. I think those are two very glaring holes that he will need to fill in to become some sort of star. And I guess kind of like Shaedon Sharpe, to me, he's like, the lower you are about the other guys, the higher you're going to be on Jabari, because he's the safe prospect. And with Sharpe, it's not a safe prospect, but with Sharpe, it's still like the complete opposite, where the lower you are on the other guys, the more appealing Sharpe is because he's a really big gamble. So those are like, I think those are the two extremes. Like Sharpe's the biggest gamble, and Jabari is like the smallest gamble. But I think to me, ultimately, it comes down to how you want to build the team. I value getting someone who's star potential rather than a surefire. What to me is a surefire hit at a role player.
Yeah, Jabari is he's a very safe prospect. It's very clear what he does well, what he doesn't do well. Like he takes 2 minutes to watch him play, then you realize, okay, that's what he brings to the table. A great, really, I want to touch on his defense just a little bit. That he's a great defender. I mean, he switches. He can get through screens the way like no other bigs should be able to get through screens the way Jabari can. And he switches so well. He moves so well, and he attacks you on defense. Like that's what I feel is like kind of the opposite of Banchero on defense, where he attacks you on defense. He attacks you defensively. So like if he guards you, he wants to force the miss like badly. You can see the aggression. He forces you, like it dictates your movement. And defensively, he kind of does need to be better at, like in general, as the help defender. Like he relies on Walker Kessler a lot, so it feels like naturally he just doesn't feel like he has to help as much as he really does. But he just, good defender, like off the ball, on the ball. He could hit a defensive team one day, and I wouldn't be surprised. Offensively, the shooting is outrageous. I mean, he can shoot comfortably at any situation. You get him a mismatch. It's a really easy, like catch, shoot, bucket. Like it's very simple. The self creation is just not there. It's really, if you want to draft Jabari, like top 2, for example, it comes down to how much you believe he can improve as a creator. Because right now, the package is like 1 dribble, 2 dribbles is max, like 2 dribbles is going even overboard here, and then shoot over this guy. And maybe the shooting is all-time great. And if the shooting is like, if he's a 6'10" Klay Thompson, like I heard that comparison, then he's just, I mean, that's an incredibly valuable player. If his shooting is so good, you can just run him off screens all the time, and he can find his way like to 22 points a game, and elite defense, help defense on ball. Like you want players like that so much that you'd rather have them over ball dominant stars. So it depends on how much you believe his shooting is actually very good, and how much you can believe he can improve as a slasher, as a creator, as a passer, all of those stuff. But in general, when you can shoot, you can just stop and pop. You can just fade left and pull up. So you don't have to do as much work. Like if you look at a player who needs to learn how to be a creator and he doesn't have a good jump shot, like life is going to be difficult because teams are going to dare you to shoot. They're going to cover that space that you want to generate by sagging back. And it will be tough. And I guess guys you can blow by. I mean, what do you do? But when you can just like, okay, I can just fuck this. I can pull up. I don't care. Bang. So Jabari does have some upside, but he's mostly like a safe dude who's going to be a really good wall player at the very least. And yeah, these guys don't come around often.
So to close it off, just one question. If you could, so what's the lowest pick you would take to skip the lottery, right? If someone offered you pick 4, would it be enough for you to just skip the lottery completely and the chance of winning the top 3? Is pick 3 enough for that? Do you need pick 2? Do you just not want to do it at all because you think it's a boomer bust draft and you just want the number 1 pick and you don't think that's much different besides that? Like what pick would you need to be given to skip the lottery entirely?
I ran a poll like that a couple of weeks ago. I voted 4. Part of the reason I voted 4 though is that I thought, okay, we might not finish with the worst record. And if we don't finish with the worst record, we can fall to 6. And I really don't want to fall to 6 in this draft. So I'm not, that's why mostly I picked 4. Now, if you ask me now, I think I'm still gonna pick 4 just because I believe in like Jaden Ivey and Jalen Green, man. I just can't get it out of my head. Like you don't really need a point guard when you have two guards who are very good at generating like paint touches and creating for others. Like you can, and with Şengün too. Like I think like Jaden Ivey played with Trevion Williams. He knows how to play with Şengün. So I am gonna say 4 just because I feel like there's a very clear top 4 in this draft, and I think Ivey is there. Ivey, I flip flop on him being 4 or 3 every day with Jabari. So my answer is 4, and it's like a 50-50 shot. Usually I like to take risks. Not this time, give me the 4th pick, but I would like Chet too. I'm not gonna complain about Chet. That's
Yeah. Yo, Don, what about you? I
Yep.
want to ask you this question as well.
So hold on, rephrase the question just so everyone knows what.
So, and I'll give my answer. My answer is 3. As I said before, I will take Jabari right now before the lottery. The question is, so we're prior to the lottery, right? Would
Yeah.
you skip the lottery and lock? What pick would you lock in? Would be enough for you to lock in before the lottery and and just not have any chance of getting better than that, but guaranteeing that?
I think for me it'd have to be 3. If I could lock in 3. The way I have my board right now, and this is like subject to change and stuff like that, but I said this earlier today on a space that we did. For me, it's Paolo and Jabari kind of 1A, 1B for me. And then I have Chet 3. I mentioned just like for me, rim protection is something that's a little bit more fungible, a little bit more easily. You can find someone that's going to give you 80% of that versus like having a jumbo wing or having someone like with, quote unquote, Klay Thompson level shooting. I think those are harder skills to track down. There's just a lot less guys that can give you 80% of that. So yeah, if I could lock in Chet though, or I would assume Chet is probably going to go higher than that. I think my board's probably atypical. But if I could lock in 3 there, then you're getting most likely one of Banchero or Smith, and I think those guys will do really good. And I do like Chet a lot as well. I think I can see the benefits to Chet. I did speak a little bit earlier about how I think if you watched someone like the Jazz in the playoffs, it's kind of not that you can really take Gobert out of what the other team's trying to doing offensively, but like one guy isn't just going to fix everything defensively. I think you need to make sure your team is good at point of attack as well. I don't want to. I think a lot of the fans are like, hey, we'll bring in Chet and we'll just immediately have like the best defense because he's so good. I think it's going to take some time. It's going to take like a group effort. And I do think, Banchero is the one that's a little bit more risky. I think he's a good positional defender. I think he's smart enough to be in the right places. I don't think he's going to break down your defense, but Jabari or Chet, I think defensively those guys can really make a big impact. Especially you put Jabari on the other team's big wing. I think that's really important. And that's something that the Rockets really haven't had since Trevor Ariza left. Someone that you can really put on the other team's big wing as like the guy to kind of take him out. We've seen Jayshawn Tate, try to match up on LeBron and Kevin Durant a couple of times to varying levels of success this year. But yeah, I say for me, if I could lock in 3, I would definitely take that. I'm not opposed to Ivy, but I just think you're getting into more of like a king situation where they pick the third guard and they end up having to ship one off. But
so before we close out, I know we're running short on time. Real quick, don't even argue for it. Just say who do you currently have? Because we're going to record a lot of podcasts as we go towards the lottery and towards the draft. Right now, who's your 5th? So the worst case scenario for the Rockets. I'll start. Mine is Sharpe.
AJ. It's close, but it's close. Need to watch more Sharpe.
Yeah, I also need to watch more Sharpe. He just declared earlier today for the draft. So the other thing is he doesn't have a ton of tape out there. It's going to be difficult to really get a pulse on him. Coming into today, I would have said Griffin for sure. If I get a better pulse on Sharpe, that may change. But having not been able to watch a ton of him yet, I would say Griffin has been my choice. Yeah, so I think we can go ahead and leave it there. It's been a long pod. I'm sure no one's gonna be too disappointed. I think this was a lot of good stuff, and obviously the trip was so exciting for us, and it was so exciting for everyone that really supported us through that, and paid attention to all the content that we did behind it. So if y'all contributed, followed along any way for Paolo's trip, and we want to thank y'all for supporting us. Thank you for sending well wishes and all the things like that. We read all of them, liked most of them, retweeted some of them, and it meant a lot to see y'all reaching out and just be excited to celebrate Houston. Because as much as it was about Paolo, it was also about Houston too, and just celebrating everything that makes Houston great. So let's run through the plugs really quick. You can find me on Twitter at Don Knock. You can find the pod on Twitter at Clutch City CR. And then the link tree is in the description if you want the Apple, Spotify, or the YouTube link. I also want to say thanks to everyone that subscribed on YouTube. I think we're over 400 now subscribers on YouTube. Just incredible. Thank y'all so much for watching on YouTube. That really helps us out a lot. Hopefully we give y'all a good YouTube product going forward. We're working on that. That's what we are kind of new at, but definitely appreciate all of y'all subscribing. And we are trying to get better at reading the comments. We love to see the comments. If y'all have anything to say, jump in the YouTube comments and we'll try to make sure we read all of those and get back to some of y'all. So appreciate that. Love to see those. Paolo, go ahead and tell the people they can find your stuff.
Yeah, y'all can find me on Twitter at Paulo Alves NBA. That's PAULOALVES NBA. Everything I do, from podcasts like this one to live shows on the Twitter Spaces to articles in general, will find itself linked on there.
And Itamar, go ahead.
My Twitter is Itamar _17_10. Yeah.
Perfect. So until next time, y'all, everyone be safe and go Rockets.